Hello to everyone. My name is Rachel, and welcome to the Audacious Rachel Show, where uncompromising, one-on-one, verbal combat is a norm. And we don't conform. Don't expect to leave without someone getting a verbal bloody lip. Now, let's welcome to our interview, Richard, with a round of applause. He is the Chief Executive Officer of the Full of Baloney Employment Agency.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on your show.
Let's cut right to the chase, shall we? You and your firm are flesh peddlers to find job candidates for the hiring firms for money. Simply put, you are a pimp. To be exact, you are an employment pimp.
What? That is ridiculous.
You are the go-between between job candidates and the hiring firms. Is that not correct?
Yes, and we provide an important function for the job candidates and the hiring firms.
And what are those functions?
We correlate the hiring firm's job requirements with the job candidate's knowledge, abilities and skills. And we get paid for those services.
That sounds nice and cozy. But the reality is that your firm solicits job candidates, like pimps in the sex trade, that solicit hookers for the hiring firms. Isn't that correct?
Now see here. We perform a similar function as attorneys do for their clients. The attorney functions as the go-between between their client and the government, or an organization, or another person.
I'm sorry, Richard, but attorneys acting like pimps is for another show. As a matter of fact, Richard, our investigation found that out of over 115 job candidates seeking jobs, your firm only placed one. Therefore, your success rate is 1 out of 115, or worse. Isn't that correct, Richard?
Now see here, my good lady. We have lots of candidates that apply for a job. And some just don't make the grade because of their lack of experience, knowledge, or ability.
Thank you for proving my point, Richard.
What are you talking about?
You never tell the job candidates your statistical success rate for finding jobs for them. As a matter of fact, Richard, you hide your statistical success rate. Or should I say your statistical failure rate? Why do you hide your failure rate to the job candidates?
That is a trade secret. Besides, we don't discuss private candidates' resumes with just anyone.
Thank you for proving my point again, Richard. You won't discuss your failure rates, because you well know that if you told the job candidates that your success rate is only 1 out of 115, they would leave. Isn't that correct? As a matter of fact, Richard, you need all those job candidate resumes as your own computerized bordello, so the hiring Johns can get a good feel before they buy. Isn't that true, Richard?
Now see here, madam. All the job candidates agree to have their resumes in our system. We have a mission to accomplish. And our hiring firms are very fastidious in their requirements.
I believe you are right, Richard. Like the John who works through the sex pimp, the hiring firm wants a quick look up the dress before they buy. Isn't that so, Richard?
Madam, how dare you?
Yes, I do dare. Perhaps you forgot. This is the Audacious Rachel Show, where uncompromising, one-on-one, verbal combat is a norm. And we don't conform. Richard, don't expect to leave without someone getting a verbal bloody lip. Okay, audience. I've been nice to this guy so far. Shall I go for a few more bloody rounds? As a matter of fact, your firm dresses up the job candidates before the interview selection. Isn't that true?
We have career counselors that address the job candidates' resumes, curriculum vitae, references, and appearances too.
I'm sorry, Richard. I first must address the audience before I respond to you. This guy just laid out his chin for me to give him a real bloody verbal lip. Shall I verbally poke him again? They come waltzing in here without doing any of their homework, while we do ours. And they expect not to get the crap beat out of them. Besides not telling the job candidates your failure rate. After the job candidate sends in his resume and related documents, you bring them in and have them make changes. Don't you, Richard?
Madam, you are confusing me.
Let me unconfuse you. You bring in the job candidates, change their resumes and documents, as well as their appearances for money. Don't you?
We do have career counselors and advisors that help the candidate. You have to remember that some of the job candidates have been out of work for a while, and some have not had to give a job interview in many, many years. So, does that mean we are wrong in helping them?
Yes.
What?
Simply put, you pimp them up for thousands of dollars. You tell them that you put magic into their resume, you put a bounce into their curriculum vitae, add an air of sophistication to their references, and you change their persona. Isn't that correct?
First, we do not pimp them up. But we do our best to help the job candidate get the job interview for the money we charge them. And we do our best.
Is your best telling the job candidates that they need to get it to pay? Or that they need to get new eyeglasses so they don't look so old? Or get a new suit so that they don't look degraded? Or falsify their resumes with a bullshit story? Isn't that true, Richard? As a matter of fact, Richard, we have a memo from you on these issues. Do you want me to read it to you?
How could you have gotten that memo? That is strictly classified. Lady, you've gone over the line now.
So you admit that you charge the job candidates anywhere around $1,000 for all those types of changes, don't you?
We have to charge for our services. And we don't make the job candidates falsify their resumes.
Then you fully admit that you charge for those changes. And you fully admit that you don't make the job candidates falsify their resumes. But you admit that you are helping them change their resumes. Isn't that a fair statement of fact?
Perhaps. But we do help job candidates bring out the best version of their history and experiences.
Like I said, audience, these guys just never do their homework. Watch what he does now, Richard. We have signed and sworn affidavits that your firm was complicit in falsifying resumes. We took 200 job candidates' resumes before you helped change them for the job candidates, and compared the originals with the altered resumes that you charged upward of $1,000 to job candidates. We then took the 200 originals and the alterations, and discovered that over 90 were falsified, with many big to little white lies. Isn't that true, Richard?
Those statements are so untrue.
Okay, Richard. I am going to hand you a few resumes that were altered by your firm, while I am talking to the audience. What his firm does is to spread big and little white lies throughout the resumes. For example, one resume that Richard has in his hand shows that the job candidate was a VP of sales. But what his does not say was that the job candidate was a VP of sales for only 4 weeks, because the real VP of sales was on vacation.
I will have to talk to my staff about this.
Let's get back on track. We began this interview with the assertion that you and your firm are employment pimps. The hiring firm acts like a John to have you solicit job candidates. Like in the sex trade, you get them all pimped up to compete with each other. And then job candidates pay you for all their changes. Then the hiring firm pays you when they select one job candidate. The only difference between the sex trade pimping scheme and your employment pimping trade is that the sex trade pimp has some ethics. Isn't that true, Richard?
Lady, you are way over the line.
Really? The sex trade pimp never charges the hooker for all those early changes. Why? He needs her to perform for him and make money. On the other hand, you and your firm charge the job candidate for all those early changes to their persona, etc., and then you charge them over and over again. Or shall I say, in the words of one of your former job candidates, and I quote, that you just keep on fucking them over and over again for lots of money, and they never get a chance for a job interview or a job. Isn't that true, Richard?
Lady, you have now passed way over the line of no return.
Look what I have here, Richard. More complaints. I especially like the third one down. Do you want to read that one to the audience?
Anyone who has made these suggestions to help falsify the job candidates' resumes will be fired. Can I get a copy of all these documents to begin an investigation?
Yes. You can get a copy from the federal and state authorities. I'm sure you will be hearing from them soon.
What?
Like I said, these guys come on stage and give you a performance, but never do their homework. And I knock them on their butts with a verbal bloody lip. Over and over and over again. I really do love this job.
This has all been too much for me. All these accusations are false. I have had enough. I'm leaving. Right now.
Audience. Notice he is still standing here. Okay, I have had enough of this guy. My knuckles are all blooded up from the verbal bruising I have been giving this guy while he is still picking up his cojones off the floor. I need to give you some advice. First, you don't need some employment pimp to put magic or lies in your resume or any other document. Second, you don't need to pay $1,000 to make some moderate and truthful changes to your persona. Third, there are a lot more out there like him. So you better be careful when looking for a job. Well, we must come to an end of the show. We have held you enjoyably captive for some time. And we must say goodbye from the Audacious Rachel Show, where uncompromising, one-on-one, verbal combat is the norm. And we don't conform. Don't expect to leave without someone getting a verbal bloody lip.